What's happening, guys? Sam Adams here, and welcome to a brand new episode of Caffeinate today for June the 17th of 2019. My name is Samuel Adams, and welcome to today's show. Of course, as always, I do hope this one finds you well, and if you are brand new to the show, this is a daily gaming news podcast hosted 5 days a week, Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern Time to keep you up to date and informed about everything happening in the gaming industry. And today, in the name of search engine optimization, Fortnite could have been canceled. Unashamed admittal of that one, but we'll talk more about what that could have meant for the industry, what that could have meant for Fortnite. Of course, the cancellation meaning it probably wouldn't have been anything at all, but at the beginning it very well should have been canceled. Let's go ahead and talk about that. But on top of that, Destiny 2 on Google Stadia is going to be a bit different from the other platforms at launch as it stands right now, because when Shadowkeep launches, Destiny 2 is going to be big. Let me make it very clear, but it's not going to be crossplay to begin with. That's pretty interesting, at least not with PC. Of course, we'll break down what that means for Destiny 2 fans and, of course, for early adopters of Google Stadia. On top of that, Amazon laid off dozens of game developers during E3, potentially the worst time to lay off people. It looks like The Last of Us 2 is set for February 2020. Ahead of being delisted, the Minecraft Story Mode episodes cost $100 each on Xbox 360. Now, the immediate response to that is, why? Why? And actually, it kind of makes sense, but we'll talk more about that in just a moment. Konami's soccer series has a very dumb name change. It's not just PES anymore, Pro Evolution Soccer. Oh no, there is another part of that title coming down the pipe. Then we have the UK charts talking about Sony's Days of Play making a big dent in the top 10, and we'll talk more about Xbox 360 games on PC. It's not happening, but we'll talk more about it. And of course, to those joining me live in the chat, I appreciate you being here. Decky, welcome on in. Hello, everybody else. If you are watching later on, thank you for joining me on today's episode of Caffeinate. And without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into today's top stories. A former Epic production director would have canceled Fortnite. That could have made a very different gaming industry in 2019. During an interview with GameInformer, former Epic Games production director Rod Ferguson says that if he had stayed at Epic, he would have canceled Fortnite. Fortnite Save the World, a sort of horde mode defense game that featured the same building mechanics, was the original incarnation of the now massively popular franchise. I will also say, this article makes it sound like it was put on hold indefinitely or not created at all. It's still out there, able to be played in the regular version of Fortnite if you have the full game. Still alive, just not really popular. It wasn't until developers implemented a BR mode a couple of months later in August 2017 that Fortnite began to explode in popularity, earning the most annual revenue of any game in history last year. Ferguson, who is now head of Gears of War developer at the Coalition, left Epic Games in 2012. When it was Fortnite Save the World, that was a project that just had some challenges, Ferguson said. As a director of production at the time, that game would not have passed my bar for something we should continue to keep going. So anytime people look at me and go, "You don't feel bad?" I'm like, no, you should feel really good, because that game you love, and that's a worldwide sensation, would not exist had I stayed at Epic. When asked if he loses sleep over the success of Fortnite and his involvement, Ferguson said he's happy for the Fortnite team's success. And of course, there is the full interview with GameInformer if you did want to check out the full rundown, but it could have been canceled. Fortnite very well could have never seen the light of day. And of course, whenever I saw these headlines to begin with, that goes without being said for every game that ever comes out. Any game can be canceled, and the amount of games that have been canceled is astronomical. That is just such a huge figure that you can't really wrap your mind around, because new projects are brought to the table every single day in the gaming industry. New concepts, just everything is being continuously funneled in through various corporate offices, and then what we get at the very end of the day, what is actually put on store shelves, what I talk about in an episode of The Drop every week, is the very finely tuned, hand-picked personal projects, if you will, of the teams behind the scenes. And so to see Fortnite kind of work its way out and become the worldwide sensation that it is the exception, not the rule. Honestly, whenever you're looking at what Fortnite was to begin with, before BR was ever really even a thing, there was really no reason to keep that, because if Fortnite had continued along its same path and not chosen to spin off into a battle royale mode and just focused on the horde-based combat, it wouldn't be popular today at all. In fact, I would say the servers may very well be shut down. There is simply no reason to have Fortnite save the world and nothing else. But Epic would have come up with other projects, the entire gaming industry would have changed. A lot of Battle Royale games that we have seen come out over the course of the past few years, they would not have been in existence at this point. Apex Legends probably would never have even happened. That kind of stuff blows my mind. It is simply something that is worth thinking about because of the implications of a world without Fortnite. Now, some have said it would be better without the game that Epic created, but at the same time, you have to think about the implications of what Fortnite has done, the effects of what Fortnite has been able to accomplish during its small course of success, because you've just seen so many people come into gaming, so many people become interested in games, so many people engage with their kids through stuff like Fortnite. The worldwide sensation, the cultural phenomenon that is Fortnite, where you have an in-game marshmallow concert. That kind of stuff would never have happened 10 years ago, and Fortnite made it possible as of August 2017 when the game truly did start to take off. But without further ado, let's move on to the bigger news of the day. Destiny 2's Google Stadia version does not allow players to play with other PC players at launch. Now, for those that don't know, Google Stadia is widely considered a PC version of the game, if you will. This, of course, is the new tech coming from Google, but let's just dive into the story, and we'll fill you in. Destiny 2 Stadia players can only play with other Stadia players as confirmed by Bungie. Stadia is its own ecosystem, just like current existing platforms, Bungie explained in an FAQ. That sounds like bad news for prospective Stadia owners who, when it comes to Destiny 2 at least, will be limited to a user base that excludes the wider PC community. Destiny 2 has become something of a leading light for Stadia, and Destiny 2 The Collection is free with the subscription of Stadia Pro. Of course, getting 3 months of Stadia Pro free with the Founders Edition purchase, which many people have already gone in and gotten. The Collection includes the Shadowkeep and Forsaken expansions with annual passes, Curse of Osiris, and Warmind. In a follow-up tweet, Destiny General Manager Mike Noseworthy said that while there is no policy or technical barrier preventing Bungie from including Stadia in crossplay with PC, this year, the developer is focusing on cross-save for all platforms. Cross-save means you will be able to access the same character and its progression across multiple platforms, including PC, Stadia, PS4, and the Xbox One. And of course, Stadia itself is due out in November of 2019, with Shadowkeep coming out in the fall as well. So this is a big story, but not as big as a lot of people were originally thinking, because upon the reveal of the fact that Stadia players will be limited to other Stadia players when it comes to their player pool, a lot of people said, oh, this is the end of Stadia. I was one that said this is the end of Stadia because, hey, that's very limiting, and with Destiny 2 being the one big game that's really standing out on launch, that's a bit limiting. However, if it does come later, that could potentially change things a good bit. My only question is, how many Stadia players are there going to be to actually populate the servers for Destiny 2? Are there going to be enough people playing Destiny 2 on Stadia to warrant somebody going out and buying the Stadia version of Destiny 2? That's my big question here, and that's still up in the air. It's something we'll have to wait and see whenever launch does roll a bit closer. Of course, right now, Destiny 2 still big on PS4 and Xbox One, growing on PC, I would say, but also big as well. But Stadia, a brand new platform, is coming to a game that has a couple of years under the belt, and so that's something that is kind of new. This is a new skew in the industry that we've never really experienced before, and it's something that I'm still kind of confused about, because how do you market a game that launched a while back and it's coming to a new platform that is also unproven technology? It's a weird situation that I'm not sure we can really predict. It could do very well. It could completely and totally fail. We don't really know. But as Decky says in the chat, a disturbance in the Force, I sense. Indeed, there is a disturbance without a doubt. And it's funny to bring up the Force because, again, nobody can really see Google Stadia. You just have a controller and no console, and it's just kind of there. It still blows my mind. But I hope the tech does do well. Of course, streaming is a big part of the gaming industry going forward, whether it be other services like Game Pass, where it's not technically streaming, but it's completely and totally digital and subscription-based, or if it's something like Stadia that is essentially like a virtual console of sorts in a way. Not the Nintendo kind, but an actual You know what I mean. But regardless, Destiny 2 on Google Stadia will only be limited to other Google Stadia players at launch, but hopefully more updates will come in the future. And who knows, the way that Bungie has been trending as of late, whenever there's community outrage over something or even a little bit of a disgruntled vibe, they tend to get on that and fix it very quickly since their departure from the Activision family. Which again, congratulations to the team at Bungie. They completely and totally separated from Activision. That was a good move. A very good move. And the future of Destiny also, I will admit, is very, very bright. However, the future of Amazon's game development, not so bright because they laid off dozens of game developers during E3. Yesterday, as the video game industry's attention was focused squarely on the final day of E3 in Los Angeles, this article was written a couple of days ago. Amazon's video game division quietly laid off dozens of employees. Amazon Game Studios, which is currently developing the online games Crucible and New World, told affected employees on Thursday morning that they would have 60 days to look for new positions within Amazon, according to one person who was laid off. At the end of that buffer period, if they fail to find employment, they will receive severance packages. Amazon also canceled some additional unannounced games, that person told Kotaku. The company wouldn't say exactly how many employees it laid off, but confirmed the news when reached out by Kotaku today. Amazon Game Studios is reorganizing some of our teams to allow us to prioritize development of New World, Crucible, and a new unannounced project, or projects, that we are excited to reveal in the future, an Amazon spokesperson said in a statement. These moves are a result of regular business planning cycles where we align resources to match evolving long-range priorities. We are working closely with all employees affected by these changes to assist them in finding new roles within Amazon. Amazon is deeply committed to games and continues to invest heavily in Amazon Game Studios, Twitch, Twitch Prime, AWS, our retail businesses, and other areas within Amazon. Now, of course, Amazon first began ramping up its video game division in 2014, although things haven't gone well for Amazon Game Studios so far, with the company canceling its first game, Breakaway, back in 2017. Some of its prestige hires, like Far Cry 2 director Clint Hawking and Portal director Kim Swift, left the company before shipping any games, and Amazon's massive investment in the Crytek engine to create Lumberyard has not made much of a splash. But unfortunately, it seems some people are losing their jobs in game development over this entire situation. Of course, before we begin, I hope everybody lands on their feet from this situation. As I always say when we talk about any kind of layoff, any kind of firing, whatever it might be, a studio closure, it's never a good day whenever I have to talk about somebody losing their job, losing their livelihood, and losing a job that they were likely passionate about to begin with. But Amazon has this really, really bad habit of getting into a lot of different projects at once and not focusing on doing one thing really well. Now, before we go any further with that little thought nugget there, that'd be a good name for a band, Thought Nugget. But before we go any further with that, Amazon does a lot of things very well. Of course, they do Twitch, various services, various things with Twitch Prime. They do Twitch ideas and concepts pretty well. They do shopping, of course, incredibly well. Online shopping is what Amazon is most known for. They have Amazon Music. They have Amazon Prime Video. They have various Amazon services that come to your home and construct things for you whenever you can't do it yourself. They deliver food now. There are so many various subsets of what Amazon is able to do that to say that they can't focus on doing a lot of things very well would be a bit of a lie, because they can. But at the same time, game development is something that is very, very vastly different as compared to all of these other services that they are hosting right now. And it's not something that you can really just pull out. For instance, if you want to make a grocery delivery service, you simply have to have somebody deliver groceries. There is no passion, there is no innovation, there is no, conceptualization of a new idea. You're just doing something and providing a service. That's a very different kind of concept as compared to game design and game development, where you have to have creativity, you have to have initiative, you have to have some kind of vision for what you want the game to be. There is no way to simply pump out game after game after game and create something that is going to be a long-lasting success. And so I think that Amazon might be realizing that with Lumberyard and with all of their development studio, initiatives. It might just not be working out. But again, you don't know if you don't try. That's pretty much what it comes down to with everything in life. Whether it be something in your own personal life or something with Amazon, it's simply something to take into account. But again, a horrible time of the year to lay off developers. Of course, E3 is the most exciting pinnacle of the gaming industry's year. And so to be able to come into work and say, hey, you're gone in a couple weeks. You better start looking for a job within Amazon, which very well could be anything from packing boy to other packing. I don't know what the options are. It's just a bad news, or a piece of bad news to actually get. But we will see how things work out as Amazon does continue to grow and evolve. And by grow, I mean, my God, they're growing very quickly. But as I said, I wish the best of luck to everybody involved in this situation. However, it looks like The Last of Us Part 2 is set for a February 2020 release. The Last of Us 2 looks set to come out in February 2020 according to various reports. When asked when the hotly anticipated Naughty Dog sequel was coming out in a recent interview, Ashley Johnson, who plays Ellie, sounds like she is him to reply with February, but she is interrupted by the interviewer as she is mouthing the "feh." So we don't actually get a confirmation, but it very well could be February. This tallies with a tweet from Kotaku's Jason Schreier, who said a couple of weeks ago The Last of Us 2 got bumped from fall 2019 to early 2020, possibly February, he says in a tweet. Video game analyst Daniel Ahmad then took to Reset Era to back up the suggestion, saying February 2020 is the current internal date at Naughty Dog. So you have a lot of big industry heads that report on gaming news collaborating and all confirming that February 2020 seems to be the release timeframe. Now, of course, a lot can happen between now and February 2020, so this release window may change. Assuming The Last of Us 2 stays on target, the PS4 looks to have a cracking 12 months before the expected launch of the PS5 in time for Christmas 2020. Waiting to come out is Hideo Kojima's Death Stranding, Final Fantasy VII Remake, the full launch of Media Molecule's Dreams, Sucker Punch's Ghost of Tsushima, and of course, Naughty Dog's The Last of Us 2. Not a bad looking 12 months between now and the time PlayStation 5 is set to come out. So, the big question here, is February 2020 realistic? For me, that seems a bit early, if I'm being honest with you. I always had kind of anticipated that The Last of Us would come out sometime in the late spring, early summer, because it just feels like a summertime game. But considering the fact that you do have PlayStation 5 coming out in the later part of 2020, it makes sense for The Last of Us Part 2 to come out as soon as it possibly can, to allow people time to buy it on PlayStation 4. Now, the big thing I want to really drive home here is that just because the game is coming out on PlayStation 4 in potentially February 2020, that does not mean it's not going to be coming to PlayStation 5 by February 2021 or sooner. That's pretty much what I want to make very clear. Of course, it did take The Last of Us Remastered a couple of years to come out on the PlayStation 4, but at the same time, that is where the game really hit its stride. And so for it to be a cross-generational game would not shock me. That's what a lot of people are anticipating. But of course, at the same time, the PlayStation 4 games are said to be backwards compatible with PlayStation 5. And so to be able to play the game on PlayStation 5 might eliminate the need for a remastered edition entirely. In addition to that, you could have scaling and various kinds of improvements, as we already see with both the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X, because these more, I would say, beefy consoles can handle a bit more graphics, if you will. That's a terrible way to say that, but the games can look a bit better, and the performance can be boosted a bit depending on what kind of system you are running. Of course, many of these are experimental features, but at the same time, they do work fairly well from time to time. So all of that to say, The Last of Us 2 looks to be coming out in February of 2020, so pencil it in on your calendar, and by pencil it in, I want you to write it on every single block on your calendar. I want you to say potential Last of Us 2 release date. Even on Wednesdays, Tuesdays, all the days of the week, I want you to pencil them in. But it would be a fantastic idea, as Decky says in the chat, to release a deluxe collector's edition that bundles The Last of Us 1 and 2 together, or even just a digital version of the original Last of Us bundled in with 2. That would make a lot of sense, considering they've already made plenty of money on that game. But I digress. You know what cost a lot of money? A collector's edition. You know what also cost a lot of money? Minecraft Story Mode on the Xbox 360. Because everybody wants it. No, ahead of being delisted, the Minecraft Story Mode episodes cost $100 each on the Xbox 360. The story of Minecraft Story Mode's delisting just got another weird, sad twist to it. Following the closure of Telltale Games, Minecraft Story Mode Seasons 1 and 2 are being delisted from all platforms. You can no longer buy the games on most systems, and on June 25th, you won't be able to download the episodes either, even if you already own them. This is sad enough already, but there's a weird little extra detail that has popped up for the Xbox 360 version of the game. To keep the episodes up on there so that the folks who can own them can still download them, they also need to be kept available for sale, as the backend for that system is not designed with situations like this in mind. The only solution then is to make the episodes prohibitively expensive so new players won't go and buy them. As Polygon has noted, these individual episodes of Minecraft Story Mode's first 2 seasons are currently selling for $100 USD a piece on the Xbox 360. Previous Telltale producer Jonathan Straughter has taken to Twitter to point out how silly the whole thing is, and of course he has a good bit to say about that, etc., etc. Remember, if you own Minecraft Story Mode's 2 seasons and want to download them, do it now. Of course, that applies to every platform imaginable because, again, tons of Telltale drama still continuing to percolate after months and months of turmoil in the industry surrounding that little development studio. But this is something that first catches the eye, and you think, oh, somebody's making a terrible business decision trying to make money off of people that are passionate about Minecraft before one of the biggest games in the past couple of years is taken offline. No, this is just a crappy design for the back end of what happens behind the scenes for an Xbox 360. But again, you have to consider that is technology that was probably created around 2004, 2005. So for them to not have the foresight to think about what's going to be happening with Minecraft Story Mode in 2019, not exactly a big shock. But at the same time, I did want to mention it because, man, $100 a piece for episodes of Minecraft Story Mode, that is absolutely ridiculous. And indeed, rest in peace to the wallets of kids and parents of kids that do indeed love that Minecraft. But no, sincerely, don't buy this. It's not worth it. Just watch them on YouTube. Really, I mean, it's a game where you just interact with things anyway. Don't worry. Just watch it. It's fine. That's what I did to begin with anyway. And I only got halfway through the first episode. This isn't something built for me, okay? I want to make that very clear. However, another horrible business decision. Konami's soccer series has had a very dumb name change. Of course, we are talking about Pro Evolution Soccer 2020. Konami's Pro Evolution Soccer, or just PES, is one of the longest running and most successful sports games on the planet. So sure, change its name to eFootball PES. What harm could it do? Oh, it's a horrible name. I am serious, the author writes. This year's version of the game will be called eFootball PES 2020 as a nod to the game's supposed increase in focus on esports, the one area, aside from licensing, that Konami has absolutely zero chance of competing against EA's rival FIFA series. Love to see marketing slogans creep into an actual game title, of course, as they tend to. It's so very fitting for a sports game, the digital equivalent of advertisers cramming their brands in front of or even replacing stadium names. We can only hope that EA responds by calling the next Battlefield game Lootbox Battlefield 6, which actually sounds like something somebody might actually do. However, again, eFootball PES 2020, I just don't know why anybody would choose to do this. This is a horrible decision. Number one, because you have literally a logo with a different font, a different look, a different color scheme next to the original PES logo. Just put it below it even, PES 2020 eFootball. That's a little bit better. Still not great, but it's a little bit better. Just leave it alone even, PES 2020. The game sells very well from a year-to-year kind of standpoint. Why change the name? I understand the esports approach, but at the same time, how about we just leave it out and take that additional funding that you would be using for the additional ink that is required for the cover? I'm trying to dig you out of a hole here. Just take the rope and pull yourself out. PES 2020 is still going to be known as PES 2020 within the fan base, but from now on official paper, it is going to be called eFootball PES 2020. It just does not roll off the tongue at all. It's a horrible decision. But then again, the game itself has been making some big moves in the past couple of years. So hey, what do I know? They very well could be making a really fantastic move that has been well researched and ready to go. However, that seems yet to be proven. So again, Konami, if you want to change this, you've got time. Nobody would notice. It would be a fantastic move. But you could be up there on the UK charts if you change your name. And we now have the charts coming out of the UK for the most recent line of sales numbers. Sony's Days of Play sale means no change at the top, but you do see some pretty big names making that list. The power of price promotions continues to shape the retail charts as PlayStation titles dominate the top 10. Sony's Days of Play sale kicked off before E3, cutting the price on key first and third-party sales as well as hardware bundles. As a result, FIFA 19 rose back to number 1 for the first time since January 2019. With the promotion running throughout the last week, FIFA 19 remains at the top of the charts thanks in part to its inclusion in discounted PS4 hardware bundles. The footy title even saw a 53% boost in sales week on week and have already rose by 18% the previous week. Meanwhile, Days Gone holds on to number 2 with a 35% lift in sales, while a 45% rise keeps Marvel's Spider-Man at number 3. These are very good games. I want to make that very clear. They are phenomenal experiences that should be experienced without a doubt. Elsewhere in the top 10, PlayStation VR Worlds rose from number 10 to number 7 with a 56% sales boost, while an 8% dip in sales sees Blood and Truth drop to 5th place to replace it. Strange way to phrase that. The highest placing non-PlayStation title is Forza Horizon 4, a re-entry into the top 10 with an 88% rise in sales, and this was no doubt driven by the release of LEGO Speed Champions expansion announced at Xbox's E3 press conference. And I will say, what a cool expansion that one is. A little piece of DLC. It literally takes the physics of Forza and combines it with the world of LEGO, and oh my gosh, it's a gorgeous little experience. It's what I want to see from mainline LEGO games. If I could. Of course, a lot of money goes into the Forza engine. The LEGO engine, still up for debate. However, other re-entries this week include Battlefield 5 at number 6, sales up from 65%, and Anthem at number 8, up 81%, and there are no new entries in the top 40. Here is the top 10 for the week ending on June 15th, of course, for the UK. Again, you've got at number 1, FIFA 19, 2 Days Gone, 3, Marvel's Spider-Man, 4, Forza Horizon 4, 5, Red Dead Redemption 2, Battlefield 5 coming in at number 6, PlayStation VR Worlds at 7, Anthem, shockingly, at number 8, up from 14 the previous week. That is pretty impressive right there. Grand Theft Auto 5 down to number 9 from number 6, and Blood and Truth down at number 10 from number 5. But that's what I'm asking. How is Anthem up there? And I will say there was a price cut. Of course, it was on sale as well for $30 on the PlayStation Store as well as at physical retailers. So to be able to consider that and bring that into the loop, that kind of makes a bit of sense. But again, the game not really doing that well at the end of the day. It still has not met fan expectations, no reason for it to be in the top 10, but as the chat does say, the Forza Horizon games are fantastic, without a doubt worth checking out. If you were to buy anything on this list, of course, number 1 for me, Marvel's Spider-Man. Fantastic experience. Number 2, Red Dead Redemption 2, great game. Battlefield 5, still partial to it. I have a little spot in my heart right here. It's a really, really good shooter for what it is. But at the same time, Days of Play is still going on if you want to get a discount on PlayStation Plus. Some really good PlayStation hardware as well as software. You can check that out. But again, a big sale going on for Xbox stuff as well. So if you do want to check out anything across the board, you can pretty much find a relatively good deal at some point down the line. But unfortunately, you shouldn't expect any kind of Xbox games on your PC. A couple of years ago, somebody would say, duh, why would you expect that to begin with? Not in the industry we have today, because anything is possible, including Keanu Reeves on stage during the Xbox conference, but that's a topic for another show. Don't expect Xbox 360 games to run on PC anytime soon, though Phil Spencer says never say never. Ooh. Earlier this year, there were rumors that Microsoft was testing running Xbox One games natively on Windows, and we have long hoped to see the emulation that's accomplished on the Xbox One carry over to PC. The console is already similar to a PC in both hardware and software, so it would make sense, right? Up in the air. Well, bad news, not only was Microsoft not testing out Xbox One games natively on PC, but Xbox 360 emulation isn't likely a near-term thing either. Phil Spencer talked about both in an interview with Giant Bomb this week. First, he explained what those rumors were. Buckle in, a bit of a history ride. Microsoft installer technology, this thing called MSI. If you go in your hard drive, you'll see .msi files, which I've written in my past. We built this technology called MSI XVC that allows us to easily wrap Win32 games that developers are building on PC already, not having to do any kind of UWP blah blah blah. I'm just going to use the same game I put on any other store. Every store has its own installer, so think of it that way. The X from the MSI XVC does come from our installer tech on Xbox because it's further along than our old MSI tech. So yeah, some people got a little confused. All of that to say, what people thought wasn't exactly what was happening. Now for the bit that the author of PC Gamer was hoping for. That original Xbox and Xbox 360 emulation on PC, it doesn't sound like it's going to pop up fully formed anytime soon. I would love to run PowerPC games on Windows. That's the Xbox 360 ones, Spencer said. It was hard to get those PowerPC games to run on the fixed spec machine that we have with Xbox One. When you start getting into the variability of PCs that are out there, I never say never. Honestly, we would probably stream them before we try to run them natively, and I don't know if that is the best answer. End quote. Sounds like those old games could be in Project xCloud's future. In the meantime, I'm still holding out hope I'll someday be able to put my Panzer Dragoon Orta and Ninja Gaiden 2 disc on my PC and play them like they are brand new. Of course, that is something that a lot of people connect with, to be able to put their physical disc into their PC and play whatever game they might be wanting to play. But at the same time, I like Phil Spencer's approach here. To be able to get the games running on Project xCloud, to be able to get the games streaming to PCs around the world, number one, makes things much more accessible, I would say, but number two, also future-proofs these games for future generations. Of course, we talked last week about Square Enix's big push to digitize their entire game library and make it completely and totally available across the board, but they're having trouble because, quite frankly, after 30 plus years in the industry, some of those games cannot be found. The code that actually made up the games has been lost, and so they're currently looking for that. So for Xbox to come and say, hey, we have these old Xbox One games, we have these old Xbox 360 games, let's make them all compatible with Project xCloud and just put them up there for people to enjoy. That makes more sense in 2019 than anything else. Many people, including myself, don't have a disk drive in their gaming PCs, so to have any kind of emulation that is similar to that of an Xbox One just doesn't really make as much sense in the current industry that we have today. But it is without a doubt something that is interesting, and of course, as OKest Healer in the chat says, I have not used a CD drive in years on my PC. Absolutely, I agree completely. I agree wholeheartedly. It's something that I just simply think is a relic of the past, but it is one that I did have on my first gaming PC, and I used it for two things: to install Windows and to install a copy of Battlefield Hardline that I won during a raffle. That's all beside the point. It didn't come in that handy, just to prove the point. However, that does round out today's lineup of top gaming news. Of course, if you are brand new to the show, this podcast is hosted 5 days a week, Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. If you did want to hang out and catch up on the hottest gaming news of the day. Of course, to those hanging out live in the chat, I appreciate you being here. It's always good to be able to share the gaming news, the good news, with the people in the crowd. But without further ado, I will see you guys tomorrow for a brand new episode of Caffeinate. You all have a fantastic day, and peace.